So, long story short, I'm a millennial and I have a beef with some of my fellow millennials, but it's a little more complicated than that. Stay tuned. So, as I said, I am a millennial. I was born in 1984, and technically, this is considered to be like right on the border of Generation X and Generation Y, or the MTV generation, or the millennial generation. You know, it's funny that we have so many names for our generation, being that we're the most narcissistic generation of all time. Which is kind of saying something, because the baby boomers were a pretty narcissistic generation themselves, and we managed to outdo them in spades. But the gist of my beef with the millennials is as follows. You know, since I am an older millennial, I don't have all the attributes that the younger millennials do. Specifically to this video, I feel like I have a better work ethic than a lot of millennials do. And I feel this way based on over a decade of job experience and watching other people work, especially those my age or younger. And let me get this out of the way. I don't think millennials are the worst generation when it comes to work ethic. I just think that we're the generation that started the downhill slope. Because in the ongoing generational arguments and debates online, a common retort is that Generation Z, or whatever you want to call the generation that follows my generation, is one of the hardest working generations of all time, and they get unfairly criticized for a lot of things. You know the argument. You know, they've inherited the worst economy of all time. They've inherited this and that. They're in a society where you have to go to college, so they're working full-time jobs and full-time students and not enjoying all the perks that previous generations had, blah, blah, blah. And I don't disagree with all of that. You know, I don't want to get into specifics because that's not what this video is about. But yeah, they do have it rough. We did live a life of privilege compared to them. Here's the thing though, and this argument goes for many groups of people. The amount of time you spend doing something, you know, like working, has nothing whatsoever to do with work ethic. You know, time does not equal results. Some of the laziest co-workers I've ever worked with work between 50 and 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. And no, I do not accept the argument that they're lazy and tired because they work so much. You know, when you coast along for 60 or 70 hours, that's still easier than busting your ass for 30 to 40. I've done both. I've coasted along and I busted my ass. I wasn't born with a work ethic. I had to develop it. I've been a good worker for a long time. At one point, I was one of the top earners in my family, and that's saying something considering that I have no formal education. And this is working my way up from minimum wage. So this is not privilege whatsoever. In fact, I feel like I've earned a lot more than I'm gotten, but things are finally starting to come around because I've had a mental shift. I don't know exactly what philosophy got me to develop a better work ethic, because it was a long time ago. If I had to take a guess though, it was probably working with different groups of people, specifically Mexicans. I very, very strongly reject most arguments about privilege. I disagree with the entire concept. I'm not saying privilege doesn't exist, but I'm saying that we are using it in the wrong way. Most of the people you criticize for having privilege only have been dealt a different set of cards. We all have our benefits and weaknesses in life. But working with Mexican Americans, and sometimes, you know, they might be illegal, I don't know, I didn't ask, but, you know, it's a pretty safe bet that some of them were. You begin to see what privilege is and how it affects the way you live your day-to-day life. And this makes me annoyed at people who are anti-immigration, people who are all about, you know, the naturalized Americans, because immigration is what makes this country great, or used to make it great. In general, the immigrants, legal and illegal, that I've worked with have made the country better. Generally, the immigrants that I've worked with, legal or illegal, have made the country better. And I can rarely say that about, the naturalized white Americans who live their life of privilege. The immigrants, day-to-day life is a hustle for them. They have to give it their all every single day. They work hard and they play hard. When you live a life of, privilege, if you've never had to bust your ass for what you have, you may not be aware of this type of lifestyle. I tell people this all the time. I never knew the definition of work until I worked in a Mexican kitchen. I didn't think I was in bad shape, but they were working circles around me, and I could not believe it. It took me a couple of years, but I caught up with them, and now I look at my coworkers who are non-Mexican, and I see myself in them. They're awful. So I don't think there's anything remotely racial about work ethic. Some bigoted people will tell you that, Mexicans are lazy, white people are hardworking, black people contribute nothing. They'll say these types of hateful things, and those things are not true. Now, for various cultures, work ethic might mean something completely different, and I don't really want to comment on that because I don't really know much about that. But I do know that different cultures have different work ethics. I just know that most people I work with have a terrible work ethic, and I've gotten to the point where I'm just tired of it, and I'm tired of supporting other people and propping them up, and everyone else but me moving up and getting successful because of it. So, no more. That's one of my incentives for shooting video content. It's something I can do for myself, and for better or worse, I reap the benefits. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Don't forget to like and subscribe for daily content. Peace out.